This is a story of our connection to the Earth, of who we are, and how we are related in a very deep physical and spiritual way to the land that gave us life. It's a story that binds us together with the mountains, the valleys, the rivers, and the oceans. It's a story of you, of me, of the great blue sky above and the foundation below. It's a story of water and soil and rain and trees and all living beings interacting in this play we call life. This is a story with tragedy and with hope, a story of what we've been, yet where we could be. This is an interactive story because the decisions from each of us and from all of us will determine whether this story has a happy ending or not. This story is real, but the final outcome of the story, that's up to you.
Turn on the news any day and watch the national and global weather report. The incidences of severe weather are daily. I interviewed David Gutzler, who is a climate scientist at the University of New Mexico and one of the lead authors of the IPCC report.
I'm David Gutzler, Professor of Earth and Planetary Sciences at the University of New Mexico. The overarching result that has come about over many years of study, which is that we know unequivocally that the climate's warming up.
It's as if nature was going crazy with one severe weather event after another somewhere in the world.
In a broader picture, what we do when the climate warms up is you increase the likelihood that an event of that magnitude will happen, and you increase the probable frequency of a big event like that happening. So in aggregate, what we expect to see is an increase in really intense events.
We are seeing major events ranging from too much rain concentrated in one area, causing torrential floods, to severe drought. Summers bring massive forest fires and tornadoes, mega typhoons, or tropical storms. High temperatures are climbing higher, with records being broken non-stop. There have been massive, major changes to the planet in the last 100 years. Look at this video showing the changes in the Aral Sea from 1985 to 2009. Tens of millions of trees have died in the Rocky Mountains over the past 15 years. A mega drought is 99% certain for the Southwest by 2050. The fire season in the United States is now 78 days longer each year as compared to 1970. Parts of Louisiana received 30 inches of rain in 1 week in the month of August 2016, leading to floods that killed 13 people.
Areas of the United States are starting to see ocean levels rise sooner than expected. It's not 100 years off, it's now. That's what William Sweet from NOAA has to say about it. I'd take him at his word.
How does climate change affect humans?
There are 4 really important ways that climate change affects humans. Number 1, as the planet warms up, we're going to redistribute rainfall, which is going to affect our water resources, and parts of North America may get a lot drier. Number 2, as the polar ice melts, sea levels are going to rise, and a lot of people and a lot of the world's major cities are right on coasts. That's going to impact them. Number 3, things like the species distributions, where we can grow food, they are going to change as the planet warms up, and so the range of which way you can grow corn and things will change.
Think of the wheat belt in the central United States shifting north into Canada. All of a sudden, what we have depended upon for our economic prosperity suddenly is either no longer there or on somebody else's land.
Number 4, the oceans are going to get more acidic as more CO2 dissolves in them. There are untold ramifications from that. There are the possibilities of radically altering the food web in the ocean, which can affect everything from the composition of the atmosphere to the ability of the oceans to provide food for us.
TV man spoke of death on some coast. I saw the crumbling debris. It dealt me a blow, but I'm thankful to know that it could never happen to me. I am standing on motionless land, a constant under my feet. God, 4 walls and a roof overhead, it could never happen to me. I feel for the poor folks who wander the streets in search of their daughters and sons. It's sad there are people with nothing to eat, but I'm thankful I'll never be one. These things always happen so far from my door, as if tragedy lives overseas. I wish I could help, but I'm glad for myself that it could never happen to me. It could never happen to me.
A 2015 study by Princeton, Stanford, and the University of California, Berkeley claims the Earth has entered its 6th mass extinction phase.
We're seeing faster rates of climate change, more disturbance of the land, higher rates of extinction. So I think it's pretty clear that we're headed for something big.
Shortly after the arrival of the 21st century, I realized we were putting the finishing touches on our own extinction, with the shindig probably over within a few decades.
We're past that point. What we do has consequences.
Scientist Guy McPherson has stated how many years he believes humans will survive on this planet.
I can't imagine there will be a human on the planet in 10 years.
We're running out of time? Why isn't this the #1 issue to our senators and congressmen? Environmentalist David Suzuki said, "We're in a giant car heading towards a brick wall, and everyone's arguing over where they're going to sit."
We have this very short window of opportunity, 10 to 20 years, in which to make significant progress.
James Renwick, climate scientist at Victoria University, agrees that climate change is possibly the biggest issue that humanity has ever faced. He believes that people will be hopeful and will encourage each other to take action. We have a small window of opportunity in which to make the change. Instead of the twilight of our existence, I believe that humanity will finally recognize the powerful tool of mass consciousness, and together with action, we'll come together to clean the environment, and that will ultimately change everything. Instead of an explosion into a terrifying future, we can create an explosion of enlightenment. We have a choice, enlightenment or extinction. Enlightenment is a choice that will lead us to treating the earth with dignity and reverence.
Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. We sleep when we're walking, we never stop talking. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Johnny McGee's making love to TV, and his stamina's really impressive. It's always turned on all night until dawn, and plays reruns when he gets aggressive. Johnny's afraid that he'll worry about all the problems that he doesn't have. And his life is so boring, and he's always snoring while the earth is revolving, and it's not worth exploring. And the faces on TV all say who he should be, but nobody knows who he is. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. We sleep when we're walking, we never stop talking. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. We sleep when we're walking, we never stop talking. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. We sleep when we're walking, we never stop talking. Wake up, wake up, wake up.
Trees are the lungs of the earth.
Trees absorb carbon dioxide and release oxygen. Trees are responsible for purifying and providing livable air on Earth.
I always was taught by my elders that we are a part of all of this, not apart from all of this.
We are intimately connected in design to our Mother Earth. Even the United States Geological Survey website said that we have blood vessels and the Earth has rivers. It is no coincidence that human hemoglobin and plant chlorophyll share similar biochemical structures, and that humans have the same percentage of water as the Earth.
Can you hear the rhythm inside you? The rhythm of your heartbeat? Can you hear the drumming from within you? Your heart drumming to the beat? Can you feel the wind rushing in you? The whisper of your breathing? Can you feel the invisible fill you? Your body is breathing. And your cells don't know you, see or love you, but even so they really are you, and they are your body, just as you are a cell in Gaia's body too. Can you hear the rhythm inside her? The rhythm of her heartbeat? Can you hear the drumming from within her?
With all the similarities between the human body and the Earth, it should be easy to understand why 2 degrees of global warming is so important. It is not just the air temperature between 78 degrees and 80 degrees. Many people think, oh, 2 degrees global warming, we can handle a little temperature increase, no biggie. No, that's not what it means.
3.5C is not catastrophic in terms of what our bodies can handle and what our technology can handle. You've experienced 3.5C warming tonight, probably, when you came from outside, inside. Or when you go from this room to out in the lobby, you experience that increase in temperature. So that's not the issue. What's at issue is habitat. At 3.5C warmer, the oceans become so acidified, it probably destroys all or nearly all the plankton. That's the base of the marine food web. That's half the food on the planet. At 3.5C above baseline, the temperature swings attendant associated with that probably lead to denaturing of proteins on land plants in areas that are hot because it gets up to 130 degrees Fahrenheit and causes the proteins to denature and causes the plants to die. Or we get extreme cold temperatures, even in places where it's warm, such as Tucson, Arizona, where 2 of the last 4 years it was cold enough to kill citrus trees that were 80 to 100 years old, because the cold temperatures associated with a wavering jet stream, a meandering jet stream, reached all the way down into Mexico City. So it's habitat, it's not temperature per se. We're going to have a hard time without phytoplankton in the ocean and without land plants in the continental areas, because that's 50% of the food plus 50% of the food. That's all the food.
Compare the Earth to a human body with a 2-degree fever. Could you live indefinitely with a 2-degree fever? How would it feel? Would your energy level decrease? Would you be susceptible to serious diseases? How long before it would take your fever, if unchecked, to climb to 3.5 degrees above normal? For a human, that's potentially fatal.
Now, do you get the picture? Mother Earth has a fever. We are the invasive bacteria that caused it. We have caused her to be sick. However, since we have been the cause of this illness, we can also provide the cure. My prescription is a return to stewardship on the earth.
Weather patterns are more intense and chaotic, which mirrors the way humanity is more stressed and chaotic. Are we causing a crisis for the planet? I think so.
Consider each country as an organ on the earth. For a healthy planet, we need all the organs to work together. But are we working together? Are all countries at peace and in harmony? No. And instead of peaceful weather, we have tornadoes, earthquakes, wildfires, and floods. Individual human emotions also have a strong impact on nature. The earth has a magnetic field, and each person has a similar energetic field shaped like a torus ring. People who are purposefully committing negative actions, such as abusing their bodies with drugs, alcohol, food, cigarettes, or commit crimes, or are hateful towards others, are creating a strong negative energy in that magnetic field. This negative energy goes out into the world, invades the world's energy field. The planet is in negativity overload from us. Storms are one way for the earth to dissipate negative energy. We must change in order for the weather to change.
A change in collective consciousness is required in order to calm the weather. Scientist Rupert Sheldrake has been on the cutting edge of the study of morphic fields, which leads to an understanding of collective consciousness.
Morphic resonance is a connection across time from the past to the present. And it's a process that occurs between organized patterns of activity on the basis of similarity. What it means, in effect, is that each species has a kind of collective memory. So every giraffe tunes in by morphic resonance to the form and to the behavior of previous giraffes. Every crystal, as it crystallizes, tunes in to the way that previous crystals of the same chemical crystallized in the past. So there's a kind of memory given by morphic resonance in all kinds of things. And in the realm of animal behavior, for example, it leads to quite striking predictions. If rats learn a new trick here in London, then rats all around the world should be able to learn the same trick quicker, just because the rats have learned it here. The more that learn it, the easier it should get everywhere else. And there's already evidence that this actually happens from studies of rats in laboratories. When lots of rats have learned something, other rats all around the world find it easier to learn. And this doesn't depend on any normal kind of connection between the different rats or the places. It happens because of morphic resonance on the basis of similarity. The same applies to crystals. When a new chemical is made for the first time, it's usually very hard to crystallize it. And as time goes on, it gets easier to crystallize all around the world. And I think the reason for this is that morphic resonance connects up the crystals so they tune into a kind of collective memory.
This collective memory, described by Sheldrake, he further explains as collective consciousness.
I think all things that have consciousness are in the same state. They have a physical reality, like a brain, a body, the sun, its electrical fields, and its whole nature, its whole physical body, with its rhythmic patterns. Those always relate to future possibilities that are closely coupled to the system in the present. And it's those future possibilities which are the realm in which consciousness operates.
From this realm of future possibilities, what can humanity do to save itself from possible extinction? There's been fascinating studies on the subject of thoughts, that is, intention, on physical matter. For science on how consciousness can affect physical matter, we go to the intention experiments by Lynn McTaggart. The first experiment was a leaf and a control leaf. A group of people held the intention that the experimental leaf would glow. The next week, the results showed the experimental leaf was highly glowing in the CCD cameras. The second experiment was with seeds with the intention to make them grow faster. Results showed that the seeds sprouted and grew faster. Results from these and hundreds of other experiments have shown that thoughts in the form of intention affect matter, machines, cells, organisms. Thoughts are a magnetic energy that cross time and space to change physical reality. It is with the effort of our combined intention, again and again, that we will affect weather on this planet. A visual example of how a small group of people can change the world is what I call the blanket demonstration. Human consciousness can be imagined as a grid, an interlocking network similar to the woven threads of a blanket. Place a blanket on the ground. The blanket represents human consciousness, the consciousness of all humanity. With the blanket flat on the ground, it represents a flat consciousness for everyone. There is no change yet. Now have one person bend over and using their fingers slightly lift up one corner of the blanket about 4 inches. Notice that as they lift up the corner, a portion of the blanket lifts up as well. Why? Because all the threads of the blanket are connected. The corner is not separate from the rest of the blanket. Now have the person on the diagonal side slightly lift up their corner of that blanket. Again, a small portion of the blanket lifts up. The majority of the blanket is still on the ground. When all four corners are lifted 4 inches, a larger portion of the blanket is lifted off the ground, but still a portion of the blanket is on the ground. Finally, if all 4 corners are lifted 18 inches off the ground, the entire blanket is now off the ground. The center still hangs lower than the rest of the blanket, but all of the connected threads have left the ground because they are connected to the corners that have lifted higher in the air. The threads closer to the corners are almost as high as the corners themselves. And in the same way that the blanket was lifted by a small number of corners lifting off the ground, human consciousness can be lifted by a small group of people who lift up their consciousness. In this demonstration, it took only 4 points, the corners, to lift all of the threads off the ground. In a similar fashion, it takes only a small number of people who raise their consciousness to raise the consciousness of humanity.
All forms of life on this planet are made from the same basic materials. We are made of the same minerals and gases as the weather. We are the weather, and the weather is us. It's time to realize that we are not victims of the weather and climate. We are all part of one organism, an organism for which we bear responsibility. Just as medical professionals bear a responsibility to nurture life, so also each person on the planet has the task of stewardship for all life on this planet. And just as medical professionals realize the power of a person's thoughts on their own healing, so too, the power of our thoughts affect other people, weather, and the planet. Let's use the power of our thoughts and intentions wisely to nurture each other, to calm the weather, to heal the planet.
Let's be here now with the ones we're with. Let's treat the living planet and other human beings with decency and respect.
Once people realize that there's a big global important issue, we tend to be pretty clever about solving it. So, that's my hope for the future, that we realize where we are, that we're standing at the crossroads, and that we mobilize and do the right thing.
Humankind must be a steward of the earth, caretakers for all that dwells on it. So be one heart with all things.
So it has to be nurtured, it has to be taken care of. It is a living entity.
Our sacred grandmother, the Mother Earth, is what it's all about. Once we understand and know and feel that she is alive. Western science has ascertained that. In the early 80s, they sank a shaft in Greenland, of all places, a mile or so down into the earth, and brought up data for months and months. And with that data, they ascertained that the Earth is a living organism in space. So now you've got your proof. You've got your proof. So please, start putting it in your heart. Get it up here. Now put it here.
Smell the rain in the air. The memories come rushing back. The feelings are fading fast. The sky is full of lightning. miss your piece of heaven. Is this my piece, little piece of heaven?
How can we use our consciousness to positively affect weather and climate change? Harmony with the natural world seems to be a recurring theme with indigenous cultures.
Chief Seattle said in 1854, "Humankind has not woven the web of life. We are but one thread within it. Whatever we do to the web, we do to ourselves. All things are bound together. All things connect."
There's an old tale about a village that needed rain, so they called in a traditional rainmaker. The rainmaker walked into the village, looked around, and went directly to his lodging and stayed in it for 3 days. On the 4th day, the rains came. People asked him, "Why did you stay inside the whole time? We asked you to make the rain." The rainmaker replied, "I knew when I walked into the village that there was no harmony without, so I went in to make myself harmonious so that the rains would come." Harmony within equals harmony without.
On the shoreline after sunset, watching seabirds swirl, feeding the sand with my head in my hands, as luxury pushing us over. Harmony, nature's great sanctuary. Harmony for every living thing. How long before it's gone? How long will anyone hear the song? Only faking with greenwashing can we be the change and take just what we need, much less than it seems. Is gluttony pushing us over? Harmony, earth needs real vulnerary. Harmony for every living thing. How long before it's gone? How long will anyone hear this song and make a change that is real? Make a change we can feel. Make a change that is real. Make a change for harmony.
We're vibing off of each other as we do with all the elements of the world, the space, water, trees, living creatures. That's part of our being.
Did you know that trees talk? Well, they do. They talk to each other, and they'll talk to you if you listen. Trouble is, many people don't listen. They never learn to listen to the voices in nature. But I have learned a lot from trees. Sometimes about the weather, sometimes about animals, sometimes about the Great Spirit. The Great Spirit has provided you and me with an opportunity for study in nature's university. The forests, the rivers, the mountains, the animals, which include us.
We've got to open our eyes before we can do anything.
There's song, there's dance, there's prayer, there's homage. There's just being still. In essence, that you have that mindset. Rain, where are you? Rain, we need you. You're speaking to it as an human, as a force that understands you. Just like I reiterate, I'm going to say again, it feels your vibe. It can feel like you're talking to a plant. That plant will automatically take in that vibe. It's a breathing, living element. So is rain, snow, wind, whatever that force, whatever that realm is. You need to meditate along with it, or however it's brought upon you that day, that moment, for your location or other locations. Again, prayer, song, dance.
Once we realize the power we hold within our thoughts, our own mass consciousness, we'll be able to clean the environment, calm the weather, and likely even reverse climate change. It's the most powerful tool at our disposal, and we're not using it. It's like sitting in a spiritual wheelchair when we could run and jump and do cartwheels. Waking up to our connectedness will ultimately change our worldview of our relationship to the earth, with weather patterns, with plants, rocks, rivers, and even below and beyond. We will begin to realize that as we change ourselves, we'll change our relationships with all that we are connected to. We will start witnessing dramatic and amazing results as we awaken to these possibilities. Humanity has never been in a better position for enlightenment, to make the magnificent journey to Shangri-La, a place where living is not a struggle, but a lasting delight.
Body of Gaia, we will be forever, beating to the rhythm of it all. We are all one, we are all together, beating to the rhythm of the call. The body of Gaia, we will be forever, beating to the rhythm of it all. We are all one, we are all together, beating to the rhythm of the call. Can you hear the rhythm inside her, the rhythm of her heartbeat?